I remember the night it all fell apart as if it were yesterday. It was a chilly Friday evening, the kind where the world feels strangely distant and the air carries a sense of anticipation. I had just come back from the sanatorium after my regular checkup. My health wasn't great, but I felt strong enough to come back home earlier than expected, wanting to surprise Elena. Little did I know, the surprise was on me. The house was dark when I pulled up, but a sliver of light peeked out from the crack in the living room curtains. I stepped inside, quietly, hoping to catch her off guard and maybe even see that old smile I used to adore. But then I heard it. Low murmurs of a man's voice followed by Elena's unmistakable laugh, the one she never used with me anymore. My heart dropped. I moved closer, each step heavier than the last. Peering into the living room, I saw her, sprawled out on the couch, her head thrown back in laughter. And next to her, some guy I had never seen before, young and fit, with that arrogant smile plastered on his face as if he owned the place. They didn't even notice me. Her hand was on his thigh, too familiar, too comfortable. She was wearing that black dress, the one I had bought for our anniversary, and it made me sick to my stomach. "Enjoying yourselves?" I asked, my voice low but firm. The moment those words left my mouth, a cold silence fell over the room. Elena's face twisted in shock, then quickly morphed into something dark. Annoyance. "Alex, what the hell are you doing here?" she snapped, yanking her hand away from the guy like it burned her. No trace of guilt or embarrassment, just raw irritation that I dared to intrude on her little date. The guy, let's call him Chad because he looked like a typical frat boy, just sat there with a stupid smirk on his face. He didn't even try to get up or leave, as if he knew something I didn't. "I live here," I replied, feeling a surge of anger that I hadn't felt in years. "That's my couch you're sitting on." Elena rolled her eyes as if I was some annoying fly she had to swat away. "Oh, please, don't be dramatic. This is Jason, a friend from the gym. We were just hanging out." "Hanging out?" I echoed, disbelief clawing at my throat. "With your hand practically in his lap?" Jason, or whatever his real name was, chuckled softly, and I had to resist the urge to punch that smirk right off his face. "Relax, man. We were just talking." Talking. That word felt like poison. I looked back at Elena, searching for any sign of remorse, of the woman I once loved. But her eyes were hard, indifferent, like I was just a nuisance she had to deal with. "You're lying?" I muttered, the realization crashing over me like a tidal wave. "I know what I saw." "And what did you see, Alex?" she shot back, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Me talking to a friend? God, you're so paranoid." I couldn't believe her audacity. The way she dismissed me, belittled me, as if I was the one overreacting. As if I had no right to be angry or hurt. Something snapped inside me. "Elena, you're my wife?" I whispered, my voice trembling with barely contained rage. "And you're sitting here with some random guy, touching him like he's me." She scoffed, crossing her arms defiantly. "Oh, get over yourself, Alex. You're never here. You're always off at that stupid sanatorium or buried in your work. Did you really think I'd just sit around waiting for you?" My jaw clenched. "So this is my fault now?" She shrugged, looking me straight in the eyes with a coldness I'd never seen before. "Maybe if you paid more attention, you wouldn't have to wonder what I'm doing." I stared at her, every ounce of love I'd ever felt for her turning to ash. This wasn't the woman I married. This was a stranger, a ruthless, heartless stranger who didn't give a damn about how much she was hurting me. "So what? You've just been parading guys in and out of our house while I'm gone?" I demanded, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. Her lips curled into a bitter smile. "Why not? You weren't around to notice anyway." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Every word was like a dagger twisting deeper into my chest. The betrayal, the lies. They were bad enough, but it was the casual way she said it, as if she had every right to treat me like this, that made it unbearable. This wasn't just infidelity. It was contempt. And I knew right then and there, this was only the beginning. My mind went numb after that. Elena's words echoed in my head like some twisted mantra. She said it so easily, as if everything we built together was worth less than a cheap fling on a Saturday night. I tried to keep my composure, to stand my ground, but it felt like my world was collapsing. Jason stood up, finally showing some level of self-preservation. "I think I should go," he muttered, looking between us like a deer caught in headlights. "Yeah, I think that's a good idea," I spat, barely able to contain the fury boiling inside me. He grabbed his jacket and slunk out the door, casting a wary glance at Elena as if waiting for her to stop him. But she didn't. She just watched him leave, her expression unreadable. The door clicked shut, and silence fell over the room. I turned to face her, my pulse hammering in my ears. "So what now, Elena? You going to tell me it was just some harmless fun? A friendly chat, maybe?" She rolled her eyes, clearly done with pretending. "Oh, give me a break, Alex. You act like this is some big betrayal. We both know you don't really care." I blinked, stunned by her audacity. "What the hell are you talking about?" She shrugged and moved to the bar, pouring herself a glass of wine as if we were discussing the weather. "You haven't cared about us in years. You're always off at the sanatorium or avoiding me at home. You're barely even a husband anymore." My breath caught in my throat. She was trying to twist this, to make it my fault. "I go to the sanatorium because I'm sick, Elena. I'm trying to take care of myself so I can be here for you." She scoffed, waving a dismissive hand. "Whatever, Alex. I didn't sign up for this nurse duty or playing the role of the neglected wife. You know what? I deserve more. Someone who actually pays attention to me." "Attention?" I hissed, taking a step closer. "I've given you everything. You live in a house you could never afford, drive a car that costs more than some people's homes, and this is how you repay me." Her eyes narrowed, a dangerous glint appearing. "Oh, so this is about money now? You think you can just throw cash at me and expect me to be grateful?" "No." I shot back, my voice cracking with the strain of holding back my emotions. "I expected loyalty, respect. I thought you actually loved me." Elena let out a sharp laugh, a sound so devoid of warmth that it sent a chill down my spine. "Love? Don't be ridiculous. You think I stayed because of love?" My heart skipped a beat. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. "What are you saying, Elena?" She sipped her wine, studying me over the rim of her glass like a predator sizing up prey. "I'm saying I got tired of waiting for you to die, Alex. You think I wanted to be stuck here playing the grieving widow before it's even time?" I staggered back, as if she had slapped me. The breath left my lungs in a rush. "What? You heard me?" she continued, her voice icy and matter-of-fact. "I thought you'd be gone by now. I thought I'd be free to move on with my life. But no, you just keep clinging to it like some pathetic little weed that won't die." Couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Every word she said was another nail in the coffin of our marriage, in the image I had of her, of us. "Why?" I managed to choke out, struggling to keep my voice steady. "Why are you saying this?" "Because it's the truth, Alex." Her gaze was piercing, unrelenting. "I'm tired of pretending, tired of smiling and playing nice for the neighbors, for your friends, for everyone. I want a life that's mine, with someone who actually has a future, not whatever it is you have left." My fists clenched, nails digging into my palms so hard they drew blood. "So you've just been, what, screwing around behind my back? Bringing random guys into our home?" "Random?" she echoed mockingly. "Hardly. They're all guys with potential. Young, ambitious. Men who have more to offer me than you ever could." Felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. This wasn't just infidelity. This was something so much darker, so much more calculated. "How many, Elena?" I asked, my voice a broken whisper. "How many men?" She shrugged nonchalantly. "Enough. Enough," I repeated, the room spinning around me. "Jesus Christ, Elena, have you completely lost your mind?" "Maybe," she said softly, setting her glass down. "Or maybe I've finally found it." Something shifted in her eyes then, a hardness that hadn't been there before. It was as if a mask had fallen away, revealing a side of her I had never seen, a side that terrified me. "Listen, Alex, she said, crossing her arms over her chest. This thing between us? It's over. You can keep playing the tragic hero if you want, but I'm done. I'm moving on, with or without your blessing. A bitter laugh escaped my throat. You think you can just walk away? After everything? Watch me, she whispered, her lips curving into a cold smile. And with that, she turned and walked out of the room, leaving me standing there, shattered and alone. Elena's words hung in the air long after she left the room. I thought you'd be gone by now. What kind of monster says that to their own husband? I stood there, frozen, my mind a chaotic whirlpool of rage, disbelief, and sorrow. I knew she was selfish, but this was something else. It was like I was finally seeing her for who she truly was. Someone who had never given a damn about me. Hours must have passed before I finally snapped out of it. I wandered through the house in a daze, looking at everything as if I were seeing it for the first time. Our pictures, our wedding photos, everything felt like a mockery now. She'd been living a lie, and I'd been stupid enough to believe it. I ended up in the kitchen, staring at the unopened bottle of whiskey on the counter. I reached for it, my fingers trembling, but then something stopped me. No, I wasn't going to drown myself in alcohol. I needed to stay sharp to understand how deep her betrayal went. A sudden thought struck me, and I stumbled back to the living room, grabbing my phone. If she was bringing men into our home, she had to be leaving a trail somewhere. Nobody's that good at covering their tracks, not even Elena. I opened her email on our shared tablet, the one she probably forgot I still had access to. Nothing unusual there, just boring newsletters and shopping receipts. But then I remembered the messaging apps. She had recently started using a new one, something called Connex, which she claimed was for group chats with her friends. It was encrypted, private, the perfect cover. When I tapped on the app, my hands started to sweat. But there it was, a string of conversations with names I didn't recognize. Tom, Brad, Leo. My pulse raced as I scrolled through the messages, feeling sicker with each line. Tom, I can't stop thinking about last night. When can I see you again? Elena, soon, baby. Alex is home this week, so we have to be careful. Careful. The word echoed in my head. A cruel joke. How many times had she lied to me, saying she was out with friends or shopping? All the while, she was sneaking around with these guys like some cheap, like a heartless bitch who didn't care if she got caught. And then I saw it. One of the conversations wasn't with another young stud. It was with someone named Dr. Brooks. My blood ran cold. I knew that name. He was my doctor at the sanatorium. The same man who had been treating me for years, watching over my condition. The same man I trusted with my health, my life. Dr. Brooks, your husband's test results are holding steady, but I'm worried he might get suspicious. Has he said anything? Elena, no, he's clueless. I swear. Sometimes I think he's just given up. It's like he wants to stay sick forever. The air left my lungs in a rush. What was this? Some kind of conspiracy? I scrolled faster, my hands shaking so badly I could barely read the text. Elena, if you're so worried, just up his dosage. He'll be too weak to even notice what I'm doing. Besides, I need to know what's taking so long. You promised results. Dr. Brooks, I told you these things take time, but I think we're close. Just keep him compliant, and we'll be able to move forward. Move forward? My vision blurred as I tried to comprehend what I was seeing. They were working together. This wasn't just an affair. This was something far more sinister. Elena wasn't just cheating. She was actively plotting against me, using my illness to her advantage. Rage surged through me like a wildfire. I couldn't sit still any longer. I jumped up, knocking over a chair in my haste. What was she planning? And why was my own doctor involved? The answer was staring me right in the face. Money, power, freedom, all the things she felt she deserved and I was supposedly holding her back from. But how far was she willing to go? Was she planning to kill me? My heart pounded in my chest as I tried to think. No, she wouldn't do that, would she? I had to know. I had to confront Dr. Brooks and figure out what the hell was going on. Without another thought, I grabbed my keys and headed out the door. I didn't care that it was nearly midnight. I drove like a madman, the road blurring before my eyes. When I finally pulled up to Dr. Brooks' house, my head was throbbing with pain, but I pushed it aside. There was no time to be weak now. I banged on his door, each knock like thunder in the silent night. A few moments later he answered, his face paling when he saw me. "Alex," he stammered, his eyes wide with surprise. Or was it fear? "What are you doing here?" "I know everything," I growled, shoving my phone in his face. "I read the messages. You and Elena, you're working together. What the hell is this? What are you doing to me?" Dr. Brooks' mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me," I shouted, grabbing him by the collar. "You're supposed to be my doctor, my friend. And we were trying to help you," he blurted out, his voice shaky. "Elena just wanted you to get better. She thought if we made you think you were sicker, you'd take the treatment more seriously." "Bullshit," I spat, pushing him back against the doorframe. "You've been poisoning me, haven't you? Making me worse. For what? So she can have her little affairs without me getting in the way." Dr. Brooks shook his head violently. "No, it's not like that. You don't understand." "Then make me understand," I snarled, my voice low and dangerous. "Because if you don't, I swear to God, I'll kill you right here." His face drained of color. "Alex, please, just calm down. Let me explain. It's not what you think." But I didn't want his explanations. Not anymore. I wanted the truth, even if it destroyed me. "Explain? You want to explain how you were messing with my medication? How you were lying to me?" I felt my grip on his collar tighten. I could see the panic in Dr. Brooks' eyes, but he didn't try to pull away. Good. He should be scared. "You want to explain how you were working with my wife behind my back?" My voice was a low, dangerous growl. "Alex, listen to me," he pleaded, holding his hands up in a pathetic gesture of surrender. "It's not what you think." I shoved him back, my pulse hammering in my ears. "Then tell me what it is, you son of a bitch. Because right now, I think you've been playing me for a fool." Dr. Brooks gulped, his eyes darting around as if looking for an escape. "It was all Elena's idea. She wanted to make sure you stayed compliant so you wouldn't get worse. She thought if you believed your condition was deteriorating, you'd be more docile, easier to control." Docile. The word tasted like bile. I wanted to punch him, to wipe that desperate look off his face, but I forced myself to stay still. Easier to control for what? Exactly? "She needed time, Alex. Time to sort things out," he stammered, his voice trembling. "I swear I didn't want to do it, but she said you were a danger to yourself. That if you didn't slow down, you might die." I finished for him, my voice dripping with venom. "Is that what she was hoping for?" No. He shook his head violently. "She never wanted that. It was never about killing you. It was just keeping you manageable." Manageable? The word felt like a slap to the face. Was that all I was to her? Some kind of puppet she could pull the strings on whenever she felt like it? "You've been drugging me, lying to me, and you think I'm going to believe this crap about wanting to help?" Dr. Brooks took a shaky breath. "I'm telling you the truth. Elena, she's been planning to leave you for months, but she couldn't do it while you were so erratic." I let out a harsh, humorless laugh. "Erratic? Is that what she told you? That I was losing my mind?" "Yes," he whispered, his gaze dropping to the floor. She said it was for your own good. That if you thought you were too sick to handle things, you wouldn't try to stop her when she finally moved on." The room spun around me. I felt like I was going to be sick. So she's been stringing me along, making me think I'm dying, so she can do what exactly? Run off with one of her little boy toys. "Not just one," Dr. Brooks mumbled, his voice barely audible. There's more than one." I blinked, my vision blurring with red-hot fury. "How many, Brooks? How many guys has she been bringing into my house while you were feeding me God knows what?" He hesitated, and that was all I needed. I grabbed him by the shoulders and shook him hard. How many? Damn it. At least 4, he gasped out, his eyes wide with terror. But I think there could be more. I staggered back, releasing him like he was a piece of filth. For men. While I was lying in a hospital bed, trusting her, loving her, she was out screwing around with 4 different guys, and those were just the ones he knew about. My mind reeled. I felt like I was in a nightmare, one I couldn't wake up from, and Dr. Brooks was just standing there, trembling, waiting for me to make the next move. Who are they? I demanded, my voice low and dangerous. Names, Brooks. I want names. He swallowed hard. There's Jason. He's a trainer at her gym. I clenched my jaw. I remembered Jason, the smug bastard who had been sitting in my living room, looking at me like I was some pathetic old man. Who else? A guy named Ryan. He's an investor. Someone she met at a charity event. Keep going? I growled, my heart pounding so loudly I could barely hear myself think. And then there's Leo. He's a client of mine, actually. That's how she met him. At one of your appointments. The world tilted on its axis. A client of his? Jesus Christ, she didn't even care about discretion anymore. She was flaunting it, rubbing it in my face, knowing I was too blinded by love or sickness to see what was right in front of me. And the last one? I asked through gritted teeth. Tyler. He's, spit it out. I snapped, my patience hanging by a thread. He's a lawyer, Dr. Brooks muttered, looking like he was about to be sick. He's been helping her figure out the divorce. The floor seemed to drop out from under me. Divorce. So that's what this was all about. She was setting herself up to leave me and using my own illness to justify it. You've been feeding me lies, I whispered, more to myself than to him, making me think I was getting worse, so she could walk away without a scratch. Alex, please, he pleaded, stepping forward. I swear, I didn't mean for it to go this far. Elena, she's a bitch, I finished, my voice flat and lifeless. She's a cold-hearted, manipulative bitch. Dr. Brooks looked like he wanted to argue, but he wisely kept his mouth shut. I took a deep breath, trying to get a handle on the storm of emotions raging inside me. You're going to tell me everything? I said slowly, deliberately. Every detail, every conversation, every little secret you two shared. He nodded frantically. Okay, I will. And if I find out you've lied to me, I continued, my voice dropping to a dangerous whisper, I'll make sure you lose everything. Your job, your license, your freedom. Do you understand me? Yes, I understand, he stammered, his face pale and sweaty. I'll tell you everything, I promise. Good, I said, stepping back and crossing my arms. Start talking. He took a deep breath, and for the next hour, he spilled it all, every sordid, disgusting detail of how Elena had been playing me like a fool. And with every word, I felt a little piece of me die. By the time he finished, I knew one thing for certain. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Dr. Brooks' confessions were like a series of gunshots reverberating through my skull. Each revelation twisted the knife deeper into my back, carving away the last remnants of hope I had that this was all some terrible misunderstanding. Leo, I repeated slowly, as if saying his name would somehow help me comprehend the scope of this betrayal. He's one of your clients, and you introduced him to my wife? Dr. Brooks nodded, staring down at his hands like a scolded child. Yes, but I didn't know she'd latch on to him the way she did. At first, it was just casual. I thought it was harmless. Harmless, I growled, my voice dripping with disgust. You thought letting her shack up with your clients was harmless? Were you getting a cut? Or did you just enjoy watching her tear me apart? No, he blurted out, his eyes wide with genuine fear. I swear, Alex, I never took any money. I never wanted this to happen. She's manipulative. She made me believe it was all for your benefit, that I was helping you. I let out a harsh laugh, my throat tight with anger. Helping me? You've got to be kidding. How does keeping me sedated and screwing my wife help me? Dr. Brooks looked away, a muscle ticking in his jaw. It was never supposed to go this far. She promised it was just temporary, that once you agreed to the divorce, she'd leave quietly and you could get back to your life. My life, I echoed, shaking my head. There is no life for me without my health, without the trust one had in her. You've taken everything from me. He flinched, and I felt a grim satisfaction watching his guilt eat him alive. But it wasn't enough. I needed more. I needed to see Elena suffer like I was suffering now. You said she's planning to leave, I said quietly. Is that still the plan? Dr. Brooks hesitated, then nodded. Yes, she's already spoken to Tyler about the paperwork. She's just waiting for the right moment. And what moment would that be? I asked, my voice tight with barely contained fury. When your condition gets critical. He swallowed hard, the words coming out in a whisper. Once you're unable to contest the divorce or make any decisions on your own. I clenched my fists, feeling my nails dig into my palms. So she's waiting until I'm too weak to fight back. Until she can just walk away with half of everything or more. He nodded again, his shoulders slumping in defeat. Yes, that's why she wanted to increase your dosage. She wanted to accelerate the process. My vision blurred, the edges of my world turning red. She was trying to break me, to take everything I had and leave me a shell of a man. And she would have succeeded, too, if I hadn't stumbled onto this nightmare. I need proof, I said suddenly, the words tumbling out of me like a lifeline. I need something concrete that ties her to this. Something I can use against her. Dr. Brooks looked at me in confusion. Proof? But I just told you. Your word isn't enough, I snapped, cutting him off. I need emails, texts, recordings, anything that shows she's been conspiring with you and those other guys. I need to make sure she can't weasel her way out of this. He blinked rapidly, a flash of understanding crossing his face. There might be something. I kept records of our conversations, for my own protection. I narrowed my eyes. Records? What kind of records? Phone calls, he said quickly. Messages we exchanged. I thought if she ever tried to turn on me, I'd have leverage. Get them? I ordered, stepping back and giving him room to breathe. I want everything you have on her. And I mean everything, Brooks. He nodded, stumbling toward his desk. I watched as he pulled out a small black USB drive and plugged it into his computer. A few clicks, and then the drive was in my hand, heavy with the weight of whatever damning evidence it held. This has everything, he whispered, avoiding my gaze. All our calls, texts, even some surveillance footage from the sanatorium. She thought no one would notice, but I made sure to save it. My heart pounded in my chest as I stared at the tiny piece of plastic and metal that could destroy her. Good, I murmured, pocketing the drive. Very good. What are you going to do now? Dr. Brooks asked hesitantly, his face pale and drawn. I turned to face him, my expression hard and unyielding. Now I make her regret the day she ever thought she could get away with this. I left his house without another word, my mind already racing with 1,000 possibilities. Elena wanted to play games? Fine, I could play too, but I wouldn't play by her rules. I was done being the passive, compliant husband she could manipulate. It was time to show her what happens when you push a man too far. When I got back home, the house was eerily quiet. I moved through the darkened halls, every corner of this place tainted with her lies. Our bedroom felt like a tomb. The bed where we had once shared our lives, now a monument to everything she had destroyed. I opened my laptop, my hands steady despite the storm of emotions raging inside me. Plugging in the USB, I braced myself for what I was about to see. The files popped up, a neatly organized collection of folders labeled by date and topic. I clicked on the first one, a recording of a phone call between Elena and Dr. Brooks. Just keep him under control, and I'll take care of the rest, she was saying, her voice as cold and calm as ever. I don't want any loose ends. And if he gets worse? Dr. Brooks' voice was nervous, almost trembling. Then you do what you have to do, she replied smoothly. I want this done, Brooks. No more delays. My hands tightened around the edge of the desk, the rage inside me building with every word I heard. I played file after file, each one worse than the last. Her voice, so familiar yet so foreign, spewing venomous words, plotting my downfall with clinical precision. This wasn't just infidelity. This was premeditated, calculated destruction. She had been planning this for months, maybe even years, and now I had the proof. When I finally closed the laptop, I felt a strange calm settle over me, the kind of calm that comes before a storm. Elena thought she had won. She thought she could waltz out of here with everything I had worked for, leaving me broken and helpless. But she was wrong, so very wrong, because now I had the upper hand, and I was going to use it to make sure she paid for every lie, every betrayal, every single moment of pain she had inflicted on me. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The next morning, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in months, maybe even years. The haze that had clouded my mind from the medication and lies had lifted. I knew exactly what I needed to do, and every bone in my body thrummed with purpose. Elena had already gone out by the time I left the bedroom. Good. I needed time to set things up. I sat at the kitchen table, my eyes scanning through the damning evidence on the USB drive once more, making sure I had everything in place. This was my ace in the hole, and I intended to use it to its full potential. It wasn't just about exposing her infidelity. That would be too easy. No, I wanted her to feel cornered, to realize that every step she took from now on would be a mistake, that she was playing my game now. I picked up the phone and dialed the number I never thought I'd use, my lawyer, Eric Madden. He picked up on the second ring. Alex, is everything okay? His voice was laced with concern. Not even close, I replied, keeping my voice steady. I need you to come over. Now. There was a pause and then, I'll be there in 20 minutes. I hung up and took a deep breath, my fingers tapping rhythmically against the table. 20 minutes. That's all I needed to wait before everything would start falling into place. I busied myself preparing coffee, forcing myself to move methodically, to keep my mind sharp. Eric showed up right on time. He was a tall, broad-shouldered man with a serious expression that always seemed to border on intimidating. We'd been friends before he became my attorney, and he'd seen me through some tough times. But nothing like this. Alex, what's going on? He asked. Concern etched across his face as I led him into the study. I need your help, I said simply, turning the laptop around so he could see the folders I'd pulled up. I need you to listen to these. He glanced at the screen, then back at me, a look of confusion mingling with wariness. What am I looking at? Proof, I replied. Proof that my wife and my doctor have been conspiring to keep me sick. And more than that, proof that she's been systematically planning to drain me dry and walk away with everything. His eyes widened. Jesus, Alex, you're not serious. Play the recordings, I urged, my voice tight. You'll understand soon enough. Eric hesitated, then clicked on the first file. As the conversation between Elena and Dr. Brooks filled the room, I watched the change in his expression. The shock, the anger, the disbelief. By the time the last recording ended, he looked as though he'd been punched in the gut. Holy hell, he muttered, rubbing a hand over his face. I don't even know where to start. It's insane, Alex. What are you going to do? I want her gone, I said flatly. I want her out of my life, out of my house. But I don't want her to just leave. I want her to suffer. I want her to know exactly what it feels like to be manipulated, betrayed. Eric nodded slowly, his lawyer's mind already whirring. Okay, we need to think this through carefully. You have leverage, more than enough to ensure she doesn't get a penny from the divorce. But that's not what you're after, is it? No, I agreed. Money is nothing compared to what I want. I want her to lose everything. Her reputation, her dignity, her precious freedom. And I want to be the one who takes it all from her. He leaned back, folding his arms. That's going to be tricky. If we expose her and Brooks publicly, there's a chance she could turn it around. claim she was coerced, that she was only acting under pressure from him. "She won't get the chance," I said softly, a plan already forming in my mind. "We're going to set a trap, one she won't see coming, and we're going to use her own arrogance against her." Eric's brow furrowed. "What are you suggesting?" "I want her to think she's won," I murmured, my eyes narrowing as I laid out the foundation of my plan. "We'll let her believe everything is going according to her scheme. I'll act the part of the docile, oblivious husband for a little while longer, just enough to make her comfortable. And then we pull the rug out from under her," I said, a grim smile tugging at my lips. "I'll file for divorce first, using all of this as evidence. She won't have time to react, and I'll ensure the media gets their hands on it. Her name will be dragged through the mud. Her affairs will be public knowledge, and Brooks, he'll lose his license, maybe even go to jail." Eric's gaze turned calculating. "It's risky. If she catches on, it could backfire." "She won't," I replied firmly. "She's so convinced that I'm nothing but a helpless, dying man. That's her weakness. She underestimates me." He studied me for a moment, then nodded. "All right, but you'll need to play it carefully. Act like nothing's changed. Pretend you don't know a thing until it's time." "I can do that," I said, though the thought of keeping up the facade made my skin crawl. "And Alex, one more thing." Eric's voice dropped, his eyes serious. "Are you sure you want to go through with this? Revenge can be a dangerous thing. It can consume you." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his words settle over me. He was right, of course. But this wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my life, about making sure Elena couldn't destroy me the way she intended. "I'm sure," I said quietly. "She took everything from me. Now it's time I take something back." Eric nodded, a hint of admiration in his gaze. "All right then, let's take her down." We spent the next few hours ironing out the details, ensuring every step of the plan was flawless. By the time Eric left, the sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the house that no longer felt like a home. I leaned back in my chair, exhaustion washing over me. This was going to be one hell of a battle, but I was ready for it. Elena thought she could outsmart me, but she had no idea what she was dealing with. With one final glance at the USB drive, I stood up and walked to the living room, waiting for her to return. I had a role to play, and I was going to play it perfectly. When she finally walked through the door, her smile was bright and fake. The kind of smile you give when you're hiding something. It made me want to wipe it off her face. "Hey, sweetheart," she purred, leaning in to kiss me on the cheek. I forced myself not to flinch, to keep my expression neutral. "Hey," I murmured back, wrapping my arms around her and pulling her close. "I've missed you." She laughed softly, a sound that grated on my nerves. "Missed me? You're acting like I've been gone for days, not just a few hours." I tightened my grip on her, burying my face in her hair to hide the fury burning in my eyes. "It felt like forever." She pulled back, her gaze flickering with surprise, then suspicion. "You're in a good mood." I shrugged, forcing a smile. "Just glad to have you home, that's all." Her eyes narrowed, but then she smiled. A slow, triumphant smile that made my skin crawl. "Well, I'm here now," she murmured, trailing a finger down my chest. "So why don't we make the most of it?" I nodded, swallowing back the bile rising in my throat. I could do this. I could play the game a little longer. Because in the end, I'd be the one holding all the cards. And when I finally showed my hand, she'd have no idea what hit her. The days that followed were a test of my willpower and patience. A game of cat and mouse where I had to act as if everything was normal. Elena played her part beautifully, smiling sweetly and pretending to be the doting wife while slipping away to meet her lovers whenever she thought I was too preoccupied or too sick to notice. She had no idea I was watching her every move. I set up hidden cameras throughout the house. Tiny, discreet devices she'd never notice. Every time she brought one of her flings into my home, I recorded it. Every word, every touch, every laugh that was supposed to be mine. It was sickening, but I endured it because I knew I needed more ammunition. Something undeniable that would obliterate whatever flimsy excuse she might try to give. The first major crack in her confidence appeared when I accidentally discovered a message on her phone. It was a subtle move, but one that had the desired effect. It was a Tuesday morning. Elena was in the shower, humming softly to herself like she didn't have a care in the world. I took her phone off the bathroom counter and quickly opened it to reveal a message from Tyler, her lawyer-turned-lover. Tyler. So, we're still on for tomorrow? My hand tightened around the phone as I read her reply. Elena, of course. He won't be a problem. He's been so out of it lately. I doubt he'll even notice I'm gone. A slow, bitter smile spread across my face. Perfect. This was the kind of thing I needed. Something that showed her true intentions, her utter disregard for me. I left the phone exactly as I'd found it, then retreated to the bedroom, feigning a nap when she stepped out of the shower. Alex. Her voice was sweet, dripping with fake concern. Are you feeling okay, love? I blinked up at her, feigning confusion. Yeah, just a little tired. Must be the new meds kicking in. Her gaze softened with pity, or maybe contempt. It was hard to tell these days. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I wish there was more I could do to help. Oh, there's plenty you can do, I thought darkly. And you will soon enough. I'll be fine, I murmured, forcing a weak smile. I think I just need some rest. She nodded, brushing a hand over my forehead. Of course. I have to run some errands today, but I'll be back before dinner. Okay? Okay? I whispered, watching as she dressed quickly, grabbing her purse and keys. The moment the door clicked shut behind her, I was on my feet. I moved to the living room, flipping open my laptop and reviewing the live feed from the cameras. She hadn't even made it to the driveway before she was on the phone, her voice sharp and businesslike. Yeah, it's me. He's still acting like a damn vegetable. I'll be at the hotel in half an hour, so make sure everything's ready. I don't want any surprises this time. My jaw clenched. Hotel? So this wasn't just a casual meetup. They were planning something bigger. I grabbed my car keys and followed her, keeping a safe distance as she drove across town. Sure enough, she pulled into the parking lot of a high-end hotel, where Tyler was already waiting. I parked a few rows away, far enough that they wouldn't notice me but close enough to watch. They entered the hotel together, laughing and chatting like two carefree lovers. But it wasn't just a romantic rendezvous. I could see the tension in their body language, the way they glanced around as if expecting someone to pop out and expose them. I slipped inside after them, careful to stay out of sight. The receptionist barely glanced at me as I made my way to the elevators, pretending to be another guest. I pressed the button for the third floor, my heart pounding with anticipation. When I stepped out, I saw them turn a corner and disappear into one of the rooms. I waited a few moments, then crept closer, straining to hear what they were saying through the thin walls. Everything's ready? Elena's voice was sharp, demanding. Yeah, Tyler replied. The documents are drawn up. Once he's incapacitated, you'll have power of attorney, and we can move forward with the divorce without his interference. My blood turned to ice. Incapacitated? I knew she wanted to get rid of me, but this was worse than I'd imagined. They weren't just planning to leave me, they were going to make sure I couldn't fight back at all. You're sure there won't be any complications? She pressed. He's been acting a little weird lately. I don't want him to catch on. Tyler laughed softly. Don't worry. With the medication he's on, there's no way he's capable of putting the pieces together. And even if he does, by the time he tries to do anything, it'll be too late. I clenched my fists, forcing myself to stay calm. They were underestimating me. That much was clear. They thought I was already beaten, already broken. But they were wrong. I pulled out my phone and hit the record button, capturing every word of their conversation. They went on to discuss how they would handle the media, the spin they would put on our divorce to make it seem like I was the one who had fallen apart. Maybe we can say he got violent, Elena suggested, her tone sickeningly sweet. Paint him as the aggressor. People will sympathize with me then. Tyler agreed with a low chuckle. Yeah, we can make him look like a paranoid, delusional husband. With all those health issues he's had, It won't be hard to convince people he just snapped. The rage that had been simmering inside me for weeks exploded. I wanted to kick the door in, drag them both out, and show the world what kind of monsters they really were. But I held back. I couldn't blow my cover now, not when I was so close. Instead, I turned and left, my head spinning with the weight of what I had just heard. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. They were actively trying to ruin me, to turn me into a monster in the eyes of the world. But I wouldn't let them. I drove back home, every nerve in my body screaming for action. I knew what I had to do. The trap was set, the evidence was gathered. All that was left was to pull the trigger and watch them both fall. When Elena came home that evening, she was all smiles, chattering about her errands, and how she hoped I'd had a restful day. I played along, nodding and smiling, pretending to be the oblivious husband she thought I was. Actually, I was thinking, I said softly, catching her off guard. Why don't we take a little trip? Just the two of us. Her eyebrows shot up. A trip? Where did this come from? I shrugged, keeping my tone light. I just feel like we've been distant lately. I want to reconnect. What do you say? A few days away, no distractions. She hesitated, suspicion flickering in her eyes. But then she smiled, that sickly sweet smile that made my skin crawl. Sure, she murmured, leaning in to kiss my cheek. I'd love that. I smiled back, hiding my true intentions behind a mask of sincerity, because this trip would be the final act in our little play. And when the curtain fell, she'd have nowhere left to run. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the secluded cabin I'd rented for our romantic getaway. Elena stepped out of the car, her designer heels sinking slightly into the gravel driveway. She glanced around, a hint of impatience in her eyes. Why here, Alex? She asked, her voice laced with feigned curiosity. This place is a little rustic for you, isn't it? I smiled warmly, fighting back the urge to tell her exactly why I'd brought her to this remote cabin, miles away from prying eyes. I thought it would be good for us to get away from it all. No distractions, no interruptions, just you and me. Elena's lips curved into a small, guarded smile. Sounds lovely, lovely. A word that now felt like a twisted joke. Everything about this setup was carefully planned, from the isolated location to the lack of cell service. I'd made sure that once we were here, we were completely alone. Just the two of us, and no way for her to call for help. She followed me inside, casting an approving glance around the cozy interior. This place isn't bad, she said lightly. A little old-fashioned, but charming. I nodded, watching her with a calm intensity. I thought you'd like it. Why don't you get comfortable? I'll make us some drinks. Elena's eyes narrowed slightly, but she nodded, setting her purse down on the kitchen counter. Sure, a glass of wine sounds perfect. I moved to the small kitchen area, taking my time as I poured 2 glasses of red wine. The bottle was special, one I'd brought specifically for this evening. I handed her a glass and raised mine in a toast. To us? I murmured, watching her closely. She hesitated for just a split second, then clinked her glass against mine with a delicate smile. To us. We sipped in silence, the tension between us thick and palpable. I could see her mind working, trying to figure out my angle. She was too comfortable, too used to having the upper hand. That was about to change. Let's sit by the fireplace, I suggested, nodding toward the crackling flames. There's something I want to talk to you about. Elena arched an eyebrow, but she followed me to the plush armchairs set around the fireplace. What's on your mind, Alex? I took a deep breath, allowing a hint of vulnerability to creep into my voice. I've been doing a lot of thinking lately. About us, about our future. Her eyes narrowed, suspicion flashing across her face. What kind of thinking? I leaned forward, setting my glass on the table between us. I know things haven't been great between us. I know I haven't been the husband you wanted me to be. But I want to fix that, Elena. I want to start fresh. She blinked, surprise flickering in her gaze. Start fresh. Yes, I murmured, keeping my voice low and steady. I want us to leave all the pain and misunderstandings behind. I want to be the man you deserve, the man you need. For a moment, she seemed genuinely caught off guard. But then she recovered, a calculating smile tugging at her lips. That's unexpected. What brought this on? I shrugged, allowing a faint smile to play on my lips. I realized that I don't want to lose you. I know I haven't been around as much as I should have, but I'm ready to change that. I want to spend the rest of my life making it up to you. She stared at me, a flicker of doubt in her eyes. You're serious? Completely, I said softly. But I need to know something, Elena. I need to know that you're with me, truly with me. Her smile wavered. Alex, what are you? Because I know, I interrupted, leaning forward, my eyes locking onto hers. I know everything. Her face went white, the blood draining from her cheeks. What are you talking about? I know about the affairs, I whispered, watching her closely. I know about Tyler, Leo, Jason, all of them. And I know about the plan, the one you and Dr. Brooks have been cooking up to ruin me. Elena's eyes widened, panic flashing in their depths. She stood abruptly, knocking her wine glass over. You're crazy. You don't know what you're saying. I'm not crazy, I said quietly, standing up to face her. I have proof. Recordings, messages, video evidence, everything. All those little secrets you thought were safe, I have them. She took a step back, her expression twisting into something ugly and vicious. You're bluffing. You don't have anything. Really? I pulled out my phone and pressed play on the first recording. Her voice filled the room, cold and calculating. Just keep him under control, and I'll take care of the rest. I want this done, Brooks. No more delays. Elena's mouth fell open, a strangled gasp escaping her lips. She lunged forward, trying to grab the phone, but I held it out of reach. Don't you dare touch me, I snarled, my voice low and dangerous. You've already done enough. She stumbled back, her face a mask of fury and fear. How did you? It doesn't matter how. I cut her off, my gaze never wavering from hers. What matters is that I have it. All of it. And if you try to deny it, I'll make sure every single recording is sent to the police, to the media, to everyone. Elena's chest heaved as she struggled to catch her breath. You bastard, she hissed. You set me up. Yeah, I did, I said softly, a smile tugging at my lips. Just like you set me up. Her eyes darted around the room, desperate, searching for an escape. What do you want, Alex? What are you going to do? I'm going to give you a choice, I murmured, stepping closer until I could see the fear in her eyes. You can walk away from this marriage with nothing. No money, no assets, no support. And I'll keep everything I have on you to myself. Or, she whispered, her voice trembling. Or I release all of it, I said, my voice cold and unyielding. And you can spend the rest of your life explaining to everyone you know how you tried to drug your husband, ruin his life, and steal everything from him. Your lovers, your friends, your family. They'll all know what kind of person you really are. Elena's lips trembled, her eyes filling with tears. Alex, please. You can't do this. I'll lose everything. I shrugged, feeling nothing but a hollow satisfaction. That's up to you. But make no mistake, Elena. If you ever come near me again, if you ever even think about trying to cross me, I will destroy you. She stared at me, shock and disbelief warring on her face. You're serious. Dead serious, I whispered. Silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. Then, slowly, she nodded, her shoulders sagging in defeat. I'll leave, she whispered, her voice broken. I'll go. Just, please don't ruin me. I stared at her for a long moment, then nodded curtly. You have until tomorrow to get your things. After that, you're gone. Elena nodded shakily, tears streaming down her cheeks. She turned and fled from the room, her sobs echoing through the empty cabin. I watched her go, a strange sense of relief washing over me. It was over. The lies, the betrayal, it was finally over. I'd won. But as I stood there, Alone in the silence, I realized something else. There was no joy in this victory, no satisfaction, only a hollow emptiness where my love for her had once been. I'd taken everything from her, but she'd taken something from me too, trust. And I knew, no matter how far I moved on from this, I'd never be the same man again. With a deep breath, I turned off the recording and walked out of the cabin, leaving Elena's sobs behind me. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over the path ahead. But for the first time in a long while I felt free.